On today's Locked On Jayhawks, Kansas wins 99-56 in their season opener against North Carolina Central. Dominant first outing by the Jayhawks. We're breaking it down on today's edition of the show.
You are Locked On Jayhawks, your daily podcast on the Kansas Jayhawks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Derek Johnson. You can hear me as well Monday through Friday from 3 to 6 p.m. on KLWN in Lawrence with Rock Chalk Sports Talk. Thanks for making Locked On Jayhawks your first listen every day. We are free and available anywhere you get your podcasts. You can also find us on our YouTube page where you can subscribe to the show. And thank you to everydayers out there tuning in to each and every one of our episodes. On today's Locked On Jayhawks, we're talking KU over North Carolina Central. Just a dominant outing in the season opener for KU basketball. Breaking down the game, what happened, who started, who looked good, best players of the game, goats of the game, what's next for KU, and plenty more. First, this episode of the show is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase with Gametime. So overview, KU again wins this one, running away 99-56 over North Carolina Central, moves to 1-0 on the season. It was just dominant from the word go. I think at halftime, Hunter Dickinson had one less point than North Carolina Central had and had one less rebound than they had as a team. You held them to 18 at halftime. You did not let your foot off the gas pedal a little bit. Even some of the walk-ons came in at the end and kept it going. You shot nearly 70% from the floor. They shot 35%. You scorched the nets with a really good three-point offense in the game. Your rebounding won the rebound battle, which you would expect because you had so many more mid shots. The passing was outstanding, over 30 assists for KU. You only had 10 turnovers compared to those 34 assists. Not a ton of fouls or anything where it was just a sloppy early game. It was just a really impressive all-around effort from KU. Just pure domination from the word go. North Carolina Central, you made them look like a team with 11 new players. And, that was a team who ranks in the 300s of KenPom. I think I said in the game preview, I kind of think that Forte State might be better than North Carolina Central. Like some of the better D2 schools and some of the good D2 schools can beat and compete with some of the teams like this. So I thought that was kind of, and so you had a team that was overmatched, undersized, coming in down Fieldhouse with a bunch of new players, lost their entire starting five from a year before. And KU dominated them, and on top of that had an A shooting game, hitting 13 threes, right? Like, that's going to be as good as it gets from a shooting perspective. Like, I don't mean that as that you won't do it again. Like, you'll probably have other good games where you shoot well, but it's not going to be much better than what you showed because this was a really good shooting game by KU. And that was, I think, the most encouraging thing to see overall. It was coming into this game, you did expect to win big. The spread on this game was 30 points. You easily covered that, obviously. You ended up with the over in the game for those of those wondering about that too. But you wanted to walk away from this game feeling like the shooting was there, that the potential was there. And while if you went and had a good game shooting the three ball, which you did, you go 13 of 23 in the game, if you would have, I don't know, it's not that like that is the giant takeaway to be like, okay, see, all the 3-point shooting is solved. See, they are a great 3-point shooting team now because they had one game against North Carolina Central where they went 13 of 23. The true test of being a good shooting team will be, do they do it over and over again? Do they do it consistently? Do you do it in your next game on Friday and then follow it up against Kentucky? In some of your bad 3-point shooting games, are they, 5 of 20 or are they 2 of 20, right? Are you going to have more games like this? How often are they going to have, right? The consistency thing is the biggest thing with shooting. And so I think it's still a fair question to be like, okay, how good is the shooting? Because tonight we saw it was, Villanova good, right? But the first 5 exhibition games, which is a bigger sample, it was 29%. So this was important to see because A, it would raise those numbers. B, it's the first game that actually counts and means something. So this is the one that means the most among all of those. And C, just to show that you kind of had it in you. We hadn't seen that effort yet. We hadn't seen Kansas show the ability to say, hey, we have that game in us that we can hit a bunch of threes if that is something that we have to do. And now the potential's there. How often they reach the potential is going to determine how good of a 3-point shooting team they are. But this was a good first step. And this was a good opportunity to at least show when you can tap into that potential, you have the ability to do it. So again, just comes down to how often you're going to do it consistently, but you did it really well in this first game, and that was great to see. And that will, I guess, calm a little bit of the storms, so to speak, in terms of some of the three-point shooting questions. I'll say this, the three-point shooting certainly was notable and probably the most notable of the game, coming off, a couple games where he did struggle shooting the three ball, not just in the two exhibitions, but the 3 games in Puerto Rico. The two-point shooting, outstanding for KU. KU shot like almost 80% on 2-point shots. I think it was 27 of 33. It was like 79% on 2-point shots. North Carolina Central, not a huge team, 6'9", 6'8", their 2 biggest players. You took advantage of that, but you should, and you did. And this is now a trend, though, over all of KU's games. You want to add the big sample size with the 3 games in Puerto Rico. You want to add the 2 exhibitions in there. You want to add this game that gives you now 6 games, a little more data to work off of. Kansas is shooting almost 63% between those 6 games on 2-point shots. So that is an excellent number. Like, out of comparison, like the team with Udoka Azubuike that would have been the number 1 overall seed a couple of years ago, they were in the 50s. And one of those games was against Illinois, who had the number 1 2-point defense in the Big Ten last year. 2 of those games were against like pro players with the Bahamian national team. This is an elite 2-point offense. That's what we're learning. And that probably will get you more open threes, which will be a good thing to go back to that conversation. And if you're hitting more open threes because you are such a dominant 2-point offense, that's why this team is predicted to be the preseason number 1 team. It's because of the ability they have to get those easy baskets and have Hunter Dickinson with a Bill Self offense. And you've seen that over the course of this, again, shooting over 60% on 2-point shots. The defense was very good, too. You hold a team to 18 points in the first half, in the 50s for the game, 35% from the floor. I will take this with a little bit of a grain of salt just because I don't know how great the opponent is there in North Carolina Central, but you're playing a lesser team. Make it look like you are the much better team, and Kansas did just that, and certainly not a lot to take away, I think, negatively anywhere or on the defensive side. I thought it was pretty good. Elmarko Jackson started the game at the 2-guard spot. So that was kind of interesting. We'll see if Timberlake or Furphy are in the start on Friday against Manhattan. And I don't just mean that because, maybe those guys played well, which I did think they did. I just mean because we've seen that be a rotational spot so far. We've seen none of them, if you include the exhibition games, none of the 2 guards have gotten back-to-back starts. So we'll see who the guy is on Friday. Elmarko started a little, aggressive, a little rough around the edges, so to speak. He had the 3 fouls in the first half. I actually kind of liked the foul stuff in the first half, though, because one of the things Bill Self talked about is that he said he's just kind of frozen out there. He's just thinking too much. He's not playing. The fouls to me indicated that he was playing aggressively. And I think that's what you want to see from a dude who is arguably KU's best athlete. I don't know. KJ Adams maybe goes up there, but Elmarko, just from like a speed perspective, it's Elmarko Jackson. You want to see him play fast on the court. And so I was actually kind of okay with it, especially since one of them I didn't think was a foul. And he ended up with 8 points and 5 assists, which I looked up at the box score and I was like, oh, I didn't remember like all that happening. I remember, flash play here or there. But Timberlake looked good, 13 points, 3 of 4 from 3, 4 or 5 from the floor. He's in there to make shots, and he made shots tonight, so it makes it a good game. Johnny Furphy continues to impress me. Honestly, among that group of 3, I might be most impressed with Furphy right now. I think Elmarko has the highest ceiling of those 3 players, Timberlake, Elmarko, and Furphy. And Elmarko probably has the highest ceiling to eventually be, maybe like an All-American player at Kansas. But I think Furphy has the highest chance this year to be a really impactful role-playing starter. And whoever that 5th starter is, you have Dajuan Harris, Hunter Dickinson, Kevin McCullar, like all KJ Adams, who you kind of have to be a role-playing starter. And I can't but wonder if Johnny Furphy is going to fit that stuff to a T. Now, the team is thin enough, and they're still good enough players that even if Furphy's the starter, or Timberlake's the starter, or Marco's the starter, the other 2 are still going to play, and they're still going to play a good amount of minutes per game, and you kind of have to, and you need that from everybody. But Furphy does a lot of the little things well. In the right position defensively, he hits some threes for you. He had a really great entry pass to KJ Adams. It's just some of the little things that I think Furphy could really excel in this role, and I think I've been really impressed with everything we've seen from him overall on the court. But overall, I think you saw good enough flashes from all of your 3 options for that 5th starter in this game. But just overall, clean game, dominant first outing for KU. No notes, to be completely honest. I'd like to get to our goats of the game, good goats, bad goats. What's next after that? First, this episode of Locked On Jayhawks is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting spreads, including player props, over-unders, and more. You could have got Kansas at minus 30.5 for the game against NC Central, and you would have walked home feeling great about that. It was the over that hit as well for the KU game. They'll have lines out on Friday, maybe even by Thursday night for the Manhattan game, so you can get in on that and get in on some of this great action. I'll just say this, they were really low on Kevin McCullar. I think some of the stuff you're trying to catch up on, maybe get his over on the player props. Anyway, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. Goats of the game, good goats, bad goats, every level of shooting for KU. Not a ton of free throws, but they were 8 of 10. It's 80%. 13 of 23 from three. That'll do you. And I already talked about earlier, 2-point shooting, that they were shooting almost 80% on 2-point shots. So every level of shooting, KU was excellent in tonight's game. And a big reason why was the passing. The passing was outstanding, getting KU open looks from all levels of the court. 34 assists for Kansas. That was led by Dajuan Harris. The most amazing line. I can't help but wonder if Dajuan Harris went into this game and said, watch this, I'm going to have 0 shots and still have an unbelievable game. Because he took 0 shots and he had 10 assists. Just to 2 turnovers. Also gets you, some of the rebounds and some of the other stuff. But again, 0 shots. I had a friend text me and he's like, how is he able to do this without even the threat of shooting the basketball? And I don't know the answer. Maybe, there's times where he has a threat to shoot the basketball, but he just doesn't. Maybe he's driving, they're worried about this, or he has an open 3 and he makes the extra pass. It's unbelievable, man. His basketball IQ, his passing, his vision, outstanding. He had 10 assists, and that led the way. Kansas overall as a team shared the rock so well. And this is what we've heard a lot in the offseason. And a big reason why KJ Adams and Hunter Dickinson can work is that KJ is a good passer, Hunter's a good passer. Even you have Parker Brown in there playing next to Hunter Dickinson at one point. But Dajuan, great passer. El Marco had 5 assists tonight, right? He's kind of a point guard in trade, so he's a good passer. Furphy is a connective piece who can move the ball around. We saw some of that tonight. Kevin McCullar is a good passer. You just have good passers all over the court no matter what. They were really good at assist numbers last season. They might be even better this season. 34 assists in the opener, again, 10 from Dajuan Harris. Hunter Dickinson and Kevin McCullar both get good goats here. Kevin had 22 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. He was 8 of 12 from the floor, 4 of 7 from 3. Every game he continues to stack up where he's shooting well from 3, which is now both those last 2 exhibition games and this one. You continue to be like, okay, this 3-point shooting thing, it's starting to look more and more real. And that is such an important thing for both KU as a team and him individually. If he shoots this well all season long, I legitimately think Kevin could be a late first-round draft pick. Now, maybe some of the age stuff works against him, and the age is such a big thing in the NBA with potential and whatnot. But if you have this great all-around defensive player in Kevin McCullar, and now he's scoring and shooting at a high level, NBA teams are always looking for 3-and-D wings. End of the first round, those teams are more competing, looking for role players anyway. And we're not that far removed from Thomas Duarte, who was 24 years old, going right around the lottery. Or I think Derek White, the now Celtics former Spurs guard, he was 22, 23 years old. If you can play and in a weaker draft, I legitimately think that's true. If Kevin puts up 15, 16 a game this year, shoots 35, 36% from 3, I legitimately would not be shocked if he ended up being a late first-round pick. I don't know if that'll happen, but it wouldn't shock me at all. So we'll see if that continues on. But Hunter Dickinson, 21 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. There was that passing, 2 blocks, 1 steal. He was 8 of 9 from the floor. How about him getting the 3-point shooting going? 3 of 3 from downtown to really show you that, yeah, he can do it. And he was excellent all game long. And certainly he was getting fired up out there for KU. I think just in general, the center position for KU, because Parker Brown had 10 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and 1 block on 5 of 6 shooting, which means that if you combine Parker Brown with Hunter Dickinson, I know that's not all the center minutes because you have Dylan Wilhite playing some center minutes there, and I know Parker Brown played next to Hunter Dickinson for a few minutes for a short period of time with the lineup, which I actually found to be kind of intriguing. It does provide you more depth and gives you an opportunity to get Parker on the court a little bit more and earn some more minutes, which I think he has earned his right into doing that. And because of the fact that Parker Brown and Hunter Dickinson both have shown the ability to shoot a couple threes every game, I think you can actually make it work. I mean, we've heard Bill Self say, and even Christian and Parker Brown's mom say that, Parker Brown's the best athlete in the family. So you should be able to play him at the 4 and get away with it at certain times. But anyway, if you combine the stats of Parker Brown and Hunter Dickinson, 31 points, 13 rebounds, 8 assists, and 3 blocks on 13 of 15. That's a pretty efficient night from the center position in terms of what you got from both those guys. I already talked about Dajuan Harris. Honestly, I could just do good goats for everyone who's part of the scholarship player rotation, because KJ had 12 and 5. I didn't think it was one of KJ's best games ever in terms of the stat production, but he was still really good in what he was being asked to do. He'll have better games than that in terms of what the stats show, but he was good, and there was nothing wrong with anything he did. Nick Timberlake has 13 off the bench. Again, you're just asking him to shoot the ball. He shot the ball tonight. Johnny Furphy, I thought, was a really good connective piece. Like I said, even though Marco Jackson had a couple flashes driving through him and had 8 and 5, even though it wasn't a game that super sticks out for him. So basically everything is a good goat here. Even the ability to get your walk-ons, a lot of run and a lot of experience in this game. I don't know that I've ever seen a game where the KU walk-ons come in pretty much in full force with 5 to 7 minutes to go. Usually maybe one sprinkled in at the 4 or 5 minute mark. I don't know that I've ever seen it this early and that much, but that was nice to see, and obviously allow players to kind of stay rested with the next game coming up on Friday. The only bad goat I have here, I was struggling to think of anything. I didn't have to put anything. I mean, there's no rules against me not. It's just injury to Jamari McDowell. It's, kept him out of the game, and he was in street clothes. I feel bad for Jamari McDowell because this would have been an opportunity for him to come in and score his first collegiate points and maybe hit a couple of and get some of his collegiate firsts and play a good amount of minutes and run. So it stunk for him that he was unable to play. Now, the good news is it sounds like Jamari McDowell's injury isn't long-term or isn't something that's going to keep him out for a super long period of time. But obviously KU is a very thin team, so any injury to any player becomes magnified and more important. So you want to get him back as soon as possible and want to get him those reps, especially in these games where he has a better opportunity to get the live game reps that can help him in terms of his development over the long haul. So that was unfortunate. Obviously nothing that he can control or anything that, really worries you long-term, but had to pick something, I guess. We're going to continue on with what's next for Kansas. First, this episode of Locked On Jayhawks is brought to you by Gametime. Buying tickets to your favorite sporting event should not be stressful. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for your favorite events, whether it's sports, music, comedy, theater, anything near you. They have killer deals on last-minute tickets, and their best price guarantee means you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you're going to be having. I was looking earlier today, just out of curiosity, what they were for this game. You could have gotten tickets, last minute on Gametime for a handful of dollars, single-digit dollars to get into the building. And that's the beauty of it. It's right on your phone. You can see where the seats are. They have images of it. You can also switch to the map view and see the entire stadium and see how much tickets are in each section. If there's somewhere you prefer to sit, you don't want to sit by the band, you think it's too noisy, you want to sit in chair backs, whatever you want to do, you can check that out on Gametime. The Gametime guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, early look at what's next for KU. So they have Manhattan on Friday, and that'll be obviously a night game for KU. That one's going to be at 7 o'clock for the Jayhawks against, I think, the Jaspers. And then they have the Champions Classic on Tuesday against Kentucky. They're the late game, unfortunately. That one's at 8:30. And then they're into Maui a few days later and have that on Monday, November 20th with Chaminade, and then a loaded Maui field. Purdue looked good earlier tonight. And if you end up getting a clash with Purdue, that would be a lot of fun. But there's a lot of other good teams along the way, too, like UCLA, Gonzaga, and plenty others that you could be playing at different points, Marquette. So that's what's upcoming. But as far as Manhattan coming up on Friday, Also not a great team. You look at KenPom, they're ranked in the 300s. In fact, Manhattan came into the season opener today, ranked about 20, 30 spots lower than North Carolina Central. Now, I think with NC Central, a lot of how good they were going to be was a guess on some of the metric sites. They had 11 new players. They could have been worse than that. I don't know. Last year, they were in the top 200, so who knows? Manhattan might end up being better. I don't totally know. But either way, it's on the same kind of level. But it's going to be your last tune-up before the Champions Classic. And so from that standpoint, you look to take it seriously again. You look to back up what you did. You look to maybe you don't expect to shoot 70% from the floor and over 50% from three. But, have another solid three-point shooting game. Have a 7 of 20 game. Have a 8 of 22 game or something where you back up another three-point shooting game. You should be able to get open looks. You should be able to dominate once again against Manhattan on Friday, and that one coming up again at 7 in Allen Fieldhouse. That'll do it for this episode of Locked On Jayhawks. We'll get back into the football action on our next episode. We'll get to our quarter report for the last 3 games and where things are at. Stocks up, stocks down for KU football. We'll also get to a KU Manhattan preview later in the week and a KU football Texas Tech preview later in the week also. This has been Locked On Jayhawks. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts. Find us on our YouTube page where you can like and subscribe to the show. And have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next time with LOJ.